Item number 1 on the agenda, apologies for absence. Any apologies?
Chair, apologies have been received from Councillor Michelle Jones and Michelle Simmons co-optee.
I think Councillor Mitten is going to be late as well. She's hoping to join us as soon as possible.
Okay.
We have just received an email as well from Brent Carter to say that he's not able to make the meeting.
Item number 2, declaration of interests. No declaration of interest. I've got a car horn going outside the window. I don't know whether it's mine or somebody else's.
Had you better check it's not your car alarm, Harvey?
Aye, it's stopped now, so it's not mine.
Okay.
Either that or my car have gone.
That's what I was worried about, Harvey.
So item 3 on your agenda would be a report that was going to be presented by Chris Hall, Diane Jones and Karen Fisher. However, in order for us to comply with the forward work program regulations, we have moved the forward work program, which basically was item 6 on the agenda. We have moved that to item 3. And that will be followed by the Adult Community Learning Partnership progress report. So that will become item number 4. Are you all with me? Right. So we are then so into the forward work program, which has now become item number 3, but that's based on whether the membership agrees for this fundamental change. Item number 3. Okay, so can I then say, I'm assuming that you were taking us through this report or is it Sharif, or I don't know.
I think Safe and myself, I'll hand over to Safe, or Safe and myself will certainly take you through this. As you know, we had a meeting with yourself and with Councillor Mitten to actually look at proposals for the forward work plan. So we've made suggestions to what we will look at in the next year, which you will find on, she says, scrolling through in Appendix 2, and actually you can see that the first one, you were in that first meeting, so it is actually looking at adult community learning and actually looking at what we then look at in over the next year up until next May. Safe, we've tried to link it to the RAS strategy. We've tried to actually explain where everything sort of fits in for you, to look at how you can move that forward, and it would be different officers that were actually coming along. So Safe, was there anything you wanted to add about what we were looking for and where there are gaps?
Yeah, so just to touch on what Sue was mentioned there, basically we had a meeting a few weeks back to develop this draft forward work programme, which we're hoping will be approved by committee members this afternoon. We've done it to reflect the key objectives within the RAS strategy, as well as our corporate priorities, including the Recovery, Transformation and Improvement Programme and our corporate plan as well. So basically, with that proviso, it's just for members to say whether they actually agree with the items we've included in the work programme. It is at draft stage, it is flexible. We do have some gaps where we can perhaps look to amend, or if any referrals are made based on the items included in the Cabinet Forward Work Programme, we can include them. But this is just a draft work programme for members to agree.
The draft work programme is featured on page 17 of the agenda. First two lines, in fact, the 7th of June and then the 12th of July. So you've got it all under the 7th of June, the draft annual work programme, which we've got in front of us now, followed by the adult community learning.
The session in July will follow on, and we've got a workshop tomorrow afternoon, which I'm hoping members will actually attend, which will actually look at the accountability. So the report that you actually receive on the 12th of July will very much be driven by what we sort of discuss tomorrow and how we actually take that forward. If we carry on moving forward, the asset management plan was actually brought forward from this year. That should have been presented to you at some point during this year. We usually have a report on the youth services. We've kept our self-evaluation reports actually moving forward. Again, we're coming back to sort of recovery and pupil well-being, bringing head teachers in to meet you. The one in December, which is about a year after the publication of the RAS strategy, will actually give a progress update on key commitments. I would then ask if members agreed to that would be taken to council as sort of an information report to show show the update that we've had there. And we've got again the business and education training update, and the college are actually coming in December as well. And then we've got head teachers coming in January again, looking at how we've done in trauma informed and our attendance in schools. So it's trying to build in with you what we're actually looking at. There are additional items for work, but I think those have actually been left over from previous years, because the committee the head teacher at Penedray High School has been to committee, as has the head teacher from Ennis Owen Community Primary School. We've also had information on AOTUS in the last committee meeting, and we've had information on learning resource bases. So basically it's to see, is there anything that isn't in the work programme that you would like us to that you would like to scrutinise, or are there anything that you don't feel that you want to scrutinise in that work programme? And if there's silence, we work to the work programme, that's fine. You're on mute, Councillor Isaac, I think.
Thank you for that, Sue.
I think Councillor Isaac wants to come in, Harvey, but I can't hear him.
I'll try it now.
There we are.
Yeah. I'm just wondering about, are we going to include flying start at any time in it?
We haven't put it in at the moment. It'll come in some of our self-evaluation, but it isn't in. It could possibly come in. Chris, what do you think? We've got a recovery and pupil well-being, overview of pupil standards and state of well-being. Could it be included there?
Yeah, well, what we've done over the last sort of 3 or 4 years is put all of the flying start data into the overall data included for education. So it's come as a package of 0 through to 16, hasn't it, rather than standalone. So it would come in under the standards and progress, because we talk about the welcome and the foundation phase compact scores for children coming through flying start from that within that standards and progress section.
Yeah, because I'm getting rumours that a flying start hub around the Pindaran area is in danger of closing. So we could have a knock-on effect then with flying start around here.
So what you were looking at, Councillor Isaac, is more on what the provision is as opposed to the data, how we actually supporting that moving forward?
Yes, please.
Chris, when do you think?
I was going to say we've obviously, and I am aware of the issues, Councillor Isaacs. We have done a briefing paper, didn't we, to discuss with the leads for the 2 settings in Pendarren. So we shouldn't have to build too much more into that, Sue, in terms of the options available to us and the demand coming through for provision in that area for flying start. So we should be able to pull something together fairly quickly in terms of a report for scrutiny to consider.
It's looking at provision, isn't it, across the board. I don't want to put you on the spot, Chris, but the 12th of July, would that be too soon?
I think if we focus it in terms of saying, okay, this is what provision looks like across the board, but this is the issue that we have in Pendarren, then we can probably do it for the 12th of July.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, great.
Okay, so we'll add something on, if we do flying start and perhaps early years provision, so it is provision, is
Yeah,
what
yeah.
So what you get, and then we've gone from adults to early years in 2 meetings, but it's actually looking at sort of the provision for early years and flying start and how we cover it across the council. Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be
Here we
great.
are.
Yeah,
Thank you
thanks.
very much, Chris.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you, Chris.
Was there anything else that members wanted to add or delete or look at it in a different way? We are looking, I will say that we are looking possibly, I don't know quite how we need to talk to Democratic Services about this. We were considering possibly one of the meetings actually taking place in a school, but we don't know how that works because of the recording element of it. So we need to talk to Democratic Services. We thought it'd be quite nice if we could actually get out to a school and have a meeting in a school rather than have it over Teams or something like that. But we'll see what happens with that. It all depends on the variance anyway, and the position we're in. But that's where we're going with that.
Any other issues raised by members? So are we to take it then that you accept the forward work programme for 2021-22?
Yes, Chair.
Yes, Chair.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Sue, for that.
Yeah.
And that takes us on to the Adult Community Learning Partnership. And the report authors here are Chris Hall, Diane Jones, and Karen Fisher.
Thanks,
Now,
Harvey.
I'll hand over to Chris to start with, and then Chris can call in who he wishes. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Harvey. Myself and Diane are here to present, but Karen is our new Adult Community Learning Coordinator within the County Borough, so she will attend a future meeting, but Diane, I'll pick this one up for today. We're going to do a bit of a double act between us, so I'll cover the first bits, and then I'll bring Diane on a progress to date. The report, I don't know if it's easier for me to share the report or if people have already got it in front of them. Which would people find easiest, for me to share it or? Okay, I'm going to share it. Right, okay. So the summary of the report is identified in 1.1 and 1.2, and it's really a focus on the post-inspection action plan. What progress have we made to date and what impact the pandemic has had on that progress? We also then go on to look at what Welsh Government's intention was around restructuring of adult community learning, both the funding and towards the setting up of regional partnerships in line with the learning and skills partnerships. The recommendation is for members to consider the progress made to date and the regional partnership arrangements and any future options of that might be proposed. But we'll start with the introduction and background. Members might remember that on the 22nd of May 2020, our report into adult community learning was published by Estyn, and it set out the findings you can see there in 3.1 in terms of the standards, the well-being and attitudes to learning, teaching and learning, care and support, and leadership and management. Where partnerships are judged as adequate, then Estyn usually make a follow-up visit within a year to 18 months. However, obviously, because of the COVID situation, that is all delayed. So Estyn won't be back automatically at this moment in time, and have opted to implement a system of gathering of information through some consultations, etc., rather than do visits at this moment. So following our partnership review of the inspection, these were the recommendations that the local authority had, which was strengthen the partnership arrangements, because one of the things they found was that a lot of what we were doing was good, but it was very reliant upon the local authority. The local authority were driving it, and the local authority were doing a lot of the work around the partnership, and they really needed for others to take a full role across that partnership. Improving the quality of teaching in ESOL, that was a key recommendation. Increasing bilingual and Welsh medium provision, and identifying and sharing practice across partnerships. So those were the 4 recommendation areas that we came out with. Alongside that, at the time, there was a drive by Welsh Government to move towards a regionalisation of adult community learning. And that was going to be announced in terms of 2 stages. One was to change the funding of adult learning, and the other was to bring about local regional partnerships. So whereas we've got a local partnership of providers in Merthyr, this was more about looking at that across a wider CUMTAF footprint. So for us in Merthyr, where we were, the one area that we were marked adequate, as I said, was that partnership arrangements. It was really about getting others more involved in the services and about them taking ownership. And I think that's the key phrase, is Merthyr was owning the agenda, Merthyr Council, but it was about getting other partners to take ownership over the agenda as well. And then the majority of the other areas came out as good. As I mentioned, the ESOL was one that was of a particular focus that we needed to look to develop. So where we are now, I'm going to hand across to Diane in terms of where we are now to take us through the progress that's been made. I'll keep sharing this, Di, and you just give me a nod and I'll take it on from there.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Thank you, everybody. Picking up where Chris has left off. So where are we now? So 5.1, Estyn inspections are currently on hold and remain on hold. There was talk of them recommencing spring and summer 2022, but currently that's not confirmed. So as Chris has pointed out, we have had and will continue having a series of engagement visits. So Estyn has been coming in and meeting with the partnership regularly, and coupled with our own meeting discussions and group discussions, we've had a real good insight into the challenges faced by the partnership, particularly around anxiety for the staff, the development of online learning and the challenges of developing online learning and the challenges faced with learners accessing IT. So 5.2, we continue to drive the agenda, and progress has been delayed by the pandemic. There's no 2 ways about that. However, we were very conscious early on into the pandemic to get those steering group meetings resurrected. So we've been continuing with online steering group meetings. And there's been a positive effect of that, of attendance. So there's been a real good attendance in this online format, and going forward, we most probably will stay with our online format. So a summary then of our key achievements to date. So under that, strengthening the partnerships, which Chris has pointed out, we really needed to get partners involved with the ACL agenda and partnership. So our very first task was to get named strategic leads for each of the key recommendations. So the big providers, the key players are all named leads for each of the recommendations. We've had some principles of partnership annual assurance cycle agreed. So that's in place now. There's been an agreement to review the classroom observation format and actually to further develop a cross-peer observation format where each of the providers will go in and do observations on each other. So there's a great breadth of learning in that format. I've mentioned that we've got an annual quality assurance cycles, the principles of that setup. What we've got to do now is get that agreement, and we have that agreement to develop some baseline data. Because we've been very busy with engagement, and now we need to look at that, developing that baseline data to develop trend data, is particularly on the outcomes and engagement. ESOL was a key one for us as well, and feedback early on when we had the inspection. We reviewed ESOL. So there were 3 providers in the area providing ESOL provision, so we cut that down to 2. So the local authority doesn't provide ESOL provision, but 2 big providers in the area do. So we've reviewed the provision, and there is a plan in place now to look at addressing some gaps that have been identified in that provision.
Can I come in there, Di?
Yeah.
It was colleagues may remember that there was a report that went to council to restructure the provision in across the county borough, because what we were finding was there was so much ESOL provision at the time, the courses were really poorly attended across all three providers. So there was an opportunity to consolidate the amount of provision and get better value for money out of the delivery.
In regard to English and Welsh, we've strengthened our links to our own Welsh language officer, and we've seen some great benefits there in contribution to the Welsh language day. And Harrod has been very much part of giving us advice on staff training. We've developed a toolkit, so that that strengthening of that links to the Welsh language officer has been really fruitful for us. There's an agreement across the partnership to look at the Welsh language skills of staff and learners, and strategically there's ongoing strengthening of those links to the partnership, with us contributing to the Welsh language strategy and the Welsh Education Forum, so that those strategic links are being strengthened. In identifying and sharing good practice across the provision, we've got agreement now to develop an ACL professional practice forum, where staff and managers can come together, and we can hopefully then identify training and have joint training events, and have a joint approach to training, hopefully then to avoid duplication and also costs. We've always had an annual learner voice survey, but typically now with all that our learners are having to face with, we have reviewed our learner voice survey, and we are going to send out another learner voice survey where we're looking at COVID recovery, because we want to know that critical information on mental health, well-being, IT needs, and preferred learning environments. The impact of the pandemic has had an outcome on our curriculum offer, no doubt about that. So as the providers have been keeping in touch with learners, obviously the curriculum offer as I think are quite fluid, where providers have concentrated on just keeping those learners engaged. Partnership feedback has indicated that up to 50% or over 50% of impact as the providers have had on their outcomes. Interestingly, there's one provider that is providing us details of a more positive picture, and that's Welsh language courses. Now we don't know exactly why that is, but Welsh language courses, particularly the online courses, have seen a big increase. There is anecdotal comments in regard to possibly parents homeschooling their children from Welsh language schools and having to be faced with the challenges of that. But at the moment, we really need to investigate that. With the restrictions lifting now with the community venues, and as we move back to face-to-face, it is very small at the moment, and early indications are some learners want to remain online. So providers are honing in now those online courses, but our more vulnerable learners are definitely asking to get back to face-to-face. They want to have that face-to-face classroom environment and that peer support. This shift in delivery is obviously going to cause us a challenge, and we're going to have to look at enrolment numbers as we try to develop these this blended approach of online and face-to-face delivery. And again, the partnership are closely monitoring that. 5.6. I mentioned the curriculum. Sorry, Chris, you've come in.
Yeah, sorry, Di. Just to come in, I just wanted to sort of reinforce one of the elements you mentioned, which is about the online delivery, because the online delivery obviously provides positives and negatives to it. One of the positives that's been seen within the Welsh language delivery that Diane mentioned online is that actually enrolments are being seen by people outside of Merthyr, in fact, outside of the UK. One of the providers has seen somebody look to enroll from in America. Now, that's an ongoing challenge that will be both to Welsh Government and to ourselves to understand where all the enrolments are, because the money is meant to be for residents of Merthyr Tydfil. Now, obviously, you have to look at whether how much better value for money online may generate, but it's an area we're going to have to watch and manage and make sure that the money is being used to target our Merthyr residents. and for Welsh Government to consider when they look at the whole shape of adult community learning going forward.
Yeah. And again, 5.6, you know, that curriculum has remained fluid as partners struggle with keeping engagement, and a lot of partners focusing on targeting mental health and well-being with engagement courses, anxiety management. We've developed a Wellbeing Friday approach. So on a Friday, we've had a series of courses delivered, which have been very successful. And again, it's supporting learners how to develop strategies to deal with stress and anxiety. And again, what we're doing as a partnership, we are going to evaluate and audit the curriculum that's currently taking place. So we want to get that picture of the landscape of the curriculum going forward. 5.7, digital poverty has definitely been a concern for a lot of the partnership, for learners and partners who roll out those courses, and the lack of IT skills and the access to IT. Many partners are focused on IT delivery, us included, and offered IT loan schemes as well. The monitoring of this continues. We really need to keep an eye on this. We've just done a digital learner survey. It was a Welsh Government survey that was instigated by Welsh Government and rolled out through a third sector provider. We're waiting for the results of that survey for us to analyse, but the survey was looking at people's experiences of IT. So we're hopefully going to be able to get some valuable data out of that. 5.8 then, Welsh Government did provide, in acknowledgement of the struggles and the challenges faced by partners, Welsh Government provides small revenue grants. And so rather than try to deliver on a very small grant, we teamed up with Bridgend and RCT and developed a pilot mental health and wellbeing project focused on staff training, and very much a train the trainer model. When Estyn came in, they were particularly interested in this, and they've highlighted with that in one of their thematic reports. So that approach of having that regional approach to developing a train the trainer model that's got that ability to be able to cascade the training. So all in all, we have been affected by the pandemic, but I am pleased to report that, you know, we have made some significant agreements in some major principles of going forward. The problem for us now is actually looking at developing and understanding what that picture of that curriculum is, what the data is going to tell us, and so that we can start planning a way forward.
Thanks, Di. I think you know the challenge is from the local authority is to hold all of the partners to account for making the progress now, because as I said, the original Estyn inspection was about partners taking ownership over the agenda and not leaving it all up to the local authority. So that's the continual challenge. If I take us on to 5.9, which is about the regionalisation agenda, elected members may recall that a report went to council which identified that there was some change to the adult community learning budgets. We profited quite well from the restructure from Welsh Government. It increased by almost 50%, but in typical Welsh Government style, they actually restricted the amount of management money that could be utilised from that budget. So there was a requirement for the council to put in additional financial resources because of that 3% restriction in order to make sure that we were still able to manage the agenda effectively. There is still the requirement that the Welsh Government resource is focused in a particular way. Still needs to be on the essential skills, IT and ESOL. And we continue to deliver across the partnership, across all of the partnership against that agenda. In terms of the regionalisation, the pandemic has obviously had an impact on that as well, and partners have been really focused on making sure that they continue to deliver in their own areas. But there's been some work done, a number of meetings have been held, but I think it's fair to say that the attendance at those meetings, particularly from the FE sector, has been challenging at times, and that's really impacted on the ability to drive and take anything forward, because the regional agenda that we would find ourselves in, which is set by Welsh Government, would be RCT, Bridgend, Merthyr as local authorities, Adult Learning Wales as the national provider, and then Bridgend College, Merthyr College, Coleg y Cymoedd in order to take that whole agenda forward and get everybody's agreement on a way forward. So the partnership, when you know, even with the attendance lacking, has looked at a couple of different models. They've looked at an in-kind model where each of the local authorities takes a lead on a certain aspect. They've looked at a centrally coordinated model, which would involve everybody contributing financially towards a regional programme. But really, there's been no firm papers put together in order to understand what the impacts of that would be for any of the local authorities, be it financially or otherwise. And that's really where the concern from ourselves is. We need a clear understanding of the impacts of any particular way forward. And on a Welsh Government level, there's exactly the same sort of scenario. Whereas they were going to move towards the regionalisation and towards a national provision of adult learning, again, that's all been put on hold by them whilst dealing with the pandemic. So I think that it's fair to say that the regionalisation agenda still needs a hell of a lot of work doing by all partners, but it needs the buy-in of FE completely, because otherwise, potentially the local authorities could end up picking up the entire bill for taking on a regionalisation agenda. In terms of where we want to do and what we need to do next, I think you were going to pick up what we need to do next?
Yeah. So 6.1, as I alluded earlier, you know, we have made some good progress, and we have systems of quality assurance in place. However, what we need to do now is start that data collection, start to build that picture up of what that curriculum looks like. What is that offer? How much has been impacted on outcomes? What are the outcomes? So, you know, there's a work stream has been agreed now to start gathering that information. With the onset of more classroom delivery, that instigate or that peer observation format is definitely going to support the quality processes so that we can look at the teaching and learning and the professional development of the staff. But obviously there's that key focus then on the needs of the ESOL tutors, because they were particularly picked up in the ESTIN inspection. The rollout of our professional practice forum, the agreement to actually have that forum, but now to roll that out and start getting partners involved in that forum, so that we can start sharing good practice. We can look at CPD and training. Developing that central approach to rollout and as of learner voice data. So, and again, we've historically had an annual learner voice survey. Now we need to look at gathering that information in regard to COVID and what are our learners facing and what are the key challenges. We understand that from our current engagement with learners, but we want to get that survey out, so we want to ask some of those more detailed questions. We need then to implement the ESOL review findings and look at that part-time provision. There is a gap in part-time provision currently, so we need to get that sorted and we need to get that performance data. The Welsh language skills, we need to audit the Welsh language. We've had a key focus in the current observations, because we've all been doing our own observations in our own organisations, and we've had, within our own department, we've had a key focus of how incidental Welsh is being used in the classroom. But we now need to roll out that audit and look at the learning needs of staff and learners. And then 6.1.6, we need to get those papers once we can get the FE around the table and get more of an idea of what people want to do, what's the decision, is getting some options papers, working with our colleagues in RCT and Bridgend, so that we can have a full picture of what that regionalisation will look like.
Okay, thanks for that, Di. Happy then for us to pick up any questions members might have, or colleagues. No, nobody got any questions?
Nothing new. It's all been well covered. Thank you very much, both.
Okay, thanks.
You.
Okay, Harvey, and back to yourself then. I'm not sure if Harvey's there, Sue.
I don't know.
I hope it wasn't his car that was blaring the horn away.
Are there any questions? Sorry.
Am I back with it now?
Yeah, you're back now, Harvey.
So we're on to questions. Have members got any questions? Members got any observations to make?
No.
Nothing new, Chair, thank you.
Nothing? Right. Well, as far as the report is concerned, Chris, can I congratulate both you and Diane, and in fact Karen, for what I consider to be one excellent report in the period and during the period in which we spent 18 months fighting off the pandemic. And I didn't have to look much further than paragraph 3 of the report, which focused on standards, well-being, teaching and learning, care, support and guidance, leadership and management. And it was, the Estin inspection was formally published on the 22nd of May of last year, basically just under a 12 months now. And when you consider those standards that we have achieved, you can see why I offered my congratulations and thanks to the officers who have been working on this, working within the Adult Community Learning Partnership for the last 18 months that this report focuses on. So long may the improvement continue, but it appears to me as if we in Merthyr Tydfil are going from strength to strength. And that strength may be, as well, not maybe, it is, in my view, the inclusion of Chris, Diane and Karen in producing reports such as this. So once again, my congratulations to you, my thanks to you on behalf of the committee. One excellent report, and there is no doubt about it, we have improved in Merthyr Tydfil and we are on the way forward. There's a strong agenda facing us, but I'm sure we can, at the appropriate time, take up whatever is offered to us and come out at the other end fighting for it. Okay, thank you very much. Now we move on to the next item, which will now be rejigged, which is the scrutiny referrals. Saif, have we had any scrutiny referrals in the last month or 6 weeks?
No, nothing to report yet.
Right. And then the next item is to reflect and evaluate the meeting, to receive an update from myself. I think I said it all. I think I've said it all. Based on the report that we've just heard from our colleagues, there's nothing more that I can add based on the agenda that is in front of us this afternoon. And I think that takes us to the end of the agenda, unless I have missed something, Sarah.
No, I think that's it. It was a short one. We only had the one report this time because it's so close to the AGM, isn't it? So to get all the times and everything in place.
Yeah. So it remains for me then to thank you all for attending and declare the meeting closed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much, Chair.
Thank you.